Welcome back. I am now joined by Jean-Francois Harvey, who is managing partner and founder of Harvey Law Group, established in Montreal, Quebec, back in 1992. Jean-Francois completed a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Ottawa and was appointed to the Quebec Bar in that same year. He is a member in good standing of both the Quebec and Canadian Bar Associations. Jean-Francois is recognized internationally as an expert in immigration law and brings a wealth of experience in providing comprehensive immigration law services to corporations and high net worth individuals. Jean-Francois, it's a pleasure to meet you and welcome to the interview.
Thank you. And I will say good afternoon from Hong Kong. I understand it's the morning in London
It
and
is indeed.
late afternoon in Australia. So there you go.
Thank you, Jean-Francois. So you've heard the earlier conversation about the impact coronavirus is having on mobility for the mining sector. So I'd like to kick off by just asking you a similar question to begin with. Why is this an important topic from your perspective?
Well, we have seen a lot of changes in the last, let's say, 9 months since COVID-19 hit us, all of us. There is a lot of adjustment, and we can see a lot of companies trying to adjust to this new reality. Some adjusted very quickly within the first 60 days of the pandemic. Others were under the impression that it would be over after 2-3 months, and now we all know that's not the case, and we may be in this for another year. So I would say for the last 2 or 3 months, everybody is solution-oriented now, trying to find solution to solve the problem, because mobility is highly needed more than ever. We're facing a Zoom fatigue is one thing. We're facing the need for the different teams to be on site, not only in the mining industry, but in every aspect of businesses.
And just building on that, what are some of the trends that you're seeing globally as a result of the pandemic, and particularly from your perspective as a service provider around immigration and relocation?
Well, let's be honest here. I mean, COVID-19, I have to admit, it's been good to us. It's been keeping us very, very busy. So what we have seen, especially in the last 4 months, it's two different approach. I mean, more than two different approach. We have seen executives or high executive of companies seeking ways to be able to move around despite the travel restriction. Therefore, so high executive will call us to get either a new residence or a new citizenship if needed, to be able, let's say, by example, to access Europe with or without travel restriction, because fundamentally, as soon as you have a residency or citizenship, you have the right to go back home, right? So that's one solution. We've been contacted by many HR departments to find solution too on that aspect. And then we told many of the HR people that to look at their existing team and find out who have different nationality. Again, based on the principle that you always have the right to go back home, simply said. And that has been a quite successful approach for many of the companies, especially the big one, with a big pool of human resource. They were able to identify a lot of their personnel that were able to travel based on that principle.
And do you have any sort of particular examples around the challenges and some of the opportunities? Because we talk about disruption as a potential negative, and I think you touched on this briefly. But what are some of the opportunities, and what are some of the strategies people can apply and that you're advising them to apply?
Well, that's it. It has to be a multiple. You cannot apply only one strategy. Okay, so of course, like everybody, like we are doing, as we're doing now, you have this remote. I'm not sure how you call it in English, but this remote Zoom meeting or whatever meeting to do as best as you can to see people face to face. You have to have an HR strategy where people indeed, you identify who is mobile within your teams, who's the more mobile, who's less mobile, and try to palliate to the weakness if there is. By example, we're contacted by a company in UK where every single one of them were UK national without other nationality. So the first thing we start to get is to get them travel working permit in other country outside Europe, so they can travel to the site or travel to the other offices. Again, it depends. It depends. It's always how can I say? There is like the Zoom of this world is doing a certain job. There is something missing in all that, and more the pandemics go on, more the executive, more the businesses is feeling it. Yes, the online shopping is very nice, and all those Zoom meetings is very nice, but there is something missing. And the best example I can give you is just before your panel before, where the geologist was mentioning that is missing all the conversation in the car, that he was learning so much on the 7 hours drive toward the site that sometimes that was a big part of his due diligence from all the information that he will learn from that. This is what's missing now. This is why what people are looking so forward to find a solution to be there, to be able to travel again. So this is what we're doing now, is to find a solution.
And obviously, different governments have approached the pandemic in different ways, and we have travel restrictions in many places. How do you, as an expert in the legal side of these things, how do you see things progressing in terms of what countries are enabling movement a bit more than others? Where do you see that going? And those countries that rely on mining workforces or attraction of skilled workforces, what do you see some of the challenges and opportunities there? Some of the
Yeah, I mean, Canada is a good example. Of course, we offer services all around the world, not only in Canada, but Canada, for example, I believe last week, made it very clear that mining industry is an essential business. Therefore, people with a work permit has the right now. They don't need exemption to travel, or right an exemption. They can travel with their work permit to Canada if they work in the mining industry. Indonesia is trying to be more flexible. Indonesia, pretty much the borders are closed right now, but there is always a way to negotiate depending on the project. What we found out that even the most restrictive country are open to some flexibility as long as you explain to them. Vietnam right now, we have we have 3 offices in Vietnam, and we've seen in Vietnam that they're very willing to talk about. They're more open. Officially, the border is closed. Only Vietnamese nationals have the right to go back. But when you contact them and discuss with them and explain the problem, then suddenly the door opens. So what we're seeing right now is there's no general approach. There's no general opening besides maybe Canada to some extent and other countries in Europe. But there is definitely a case-by-case approach that until now we've seen every country open to this.
And just looking at sort of the impact on the individuals themselves, I would imagine that a lot of people are coming to you for advice, obviously. Has that tapered off? Is that are there more people sort of inquiring, seeking help in this field? And what are some of the key questions that you've been asked?
First of all, again, and I'll be honest, COVID has been good to us. We had to double this, just in Hong Kong, we had to double the size of the team just to answer to all the queries and all the mandates. More people are seeking our service because of that, to find solution. And again, especially now that people realize there's no fit for all solution. It's all a case-by-case approach, and we have to look at each case and find a solution that comes with it. But the demand is increasing, I would say, week after week, because again, we all understand that we're into this for another year or 6 months, hopefully only 6 months, maybe until next fall. So people feel the need that it's time to move on and to find solution.
And in the mining sector, which, as you know, relies on the movement of a lot of people globally,
Yeah.
particularly highly skilled. What do you have a view on how that might pan out in the next year or two into the future, do you think companies will continue to move that many number of people around? Do you see a shift towards more local provision of those services and training people? Also, some structural shifts, or things will pretty much go back to normal?
I believe it will be half and half. Things will go back to normal by 50%, let's say. But I believe what we've seen now is that some bigger company and mid-sized company are now training and forming mobile team. Again, they identify who can travel, who cannot, due to their nationality in their teams. They group these people together and make different units that will be able to travel. Because what's new now is that, well, what is new and relatively, is that now when you travel for 1 month. There's no more 2 days trip or 1 week trips. It's at minimally to start is a 1 month trip to make it worth it. So that totally changed the synergy or the organization of it too. So this is what we've seen from many companies is that they're creating mobile unit while looking at more at local, but again, local expertise is limited in many of those countries, or it's often very expensive to organize. So they still count on their own team, and now and that's what we've been busy to is to help those teams to become even more mobile, so they'll be able to travel and make it more efficient.
And I guess in terms of other industries that you're dealing with, are there similarities? You're finding the same sort of challenges across the clientele?
A lot of this. Best example, M&A, and the M&A industry is in crisis because of that. Again, a lot of deals were advancing to a certain extent because of those remote meetings, but if people are hitting a wall now because it comes to the physical visit or face-to-face interviews with the key person in the company. So we're getting more demand from the financial world, definitely. The IT, surprisingly enough, the IT industry is getting more and more demanding. Those same that organize all those meetings and the website and everything now find out that they need to be on the site too. So it's pretty much all over the place. There's this need to be there, this need to meet people face to face, this need to see the problem in front of them is getting more and more present.
And I guess one of the advantages of online world, Jean-Francois, is that the members of the audience are able to ask questions, so we can have a trilateral conversation in the way. So I'm going to pose one of those questions to you, which in part you've already covered. But do you envisage that the digital technology, flexible work, and remote work will impact on the desire of skilled workers to relocate to distant posts? So do people want to stay home rather than relocate in future?
Well, I mean, again, so that would be a very personal, not legal point of view, not lawyer point of view. You will always have people that will want to be mobile, and you always have people that want to stay home. It goes with the human nature of everyone. But we didn't see, yes, we've seen some more transnational movement where people say, you know what, I'm working in UK, I'm working online, why don't I go back home to Spain and do it from Madrid instead of London? But that's a different impact on this because that's within EU. This will apply within the country or within association like EU or South America or Caribbean who have that same kind of a mobility agreement. But it doesn't apply. For example, the best example is Canada and US. Right now, the border is closed, and that's a problem, right? So people try to find out the solution. I think there will be a mix of all this. I believe there's a mix of all this, but I believe that there will always be a need, a personal need or professional need for people to be mobile.
And we have countries that are emerging. We've been hearing the Saudi Arabians, who are key participants in IMARC this year, looking to establish or develop their mining sector. And they'll be looking for the workforce, to develop the workforce of the future and drawing on know-how from outside. What are some of the challenges do you think countries like that are seeking to move forward in development and facing the pandemic. What would be your take on the willingness of people to travel over the next 18 months or 2 years? Do you see the trend continuing for longer than that? You've touched on this before, but I guess when you talk about the specific countries experiencing the reality of COVID when they're trying to develop, do you have a view on that?
I think there will be, I mean, some of the hosting country would need to be a lot more flexible in their, let's say, packaging or the invitation. It's one thing to travel to a country for 1 week. It's another thing to travel there for 3-4 months. The majority of mobility, professionally speaking, even in the mining industry, would be a specialist going to place A for a very defined amount of time, and knowing that within a week or let's say 1 month, it will be coming back to his at home or to a next destination. Now, to make things efficient travel-wise, thanks to COVID and other variable, when I say earlier, minimum travel is 1 month. This is a strict minimum. Now, part of our work is to how can I say, adjust the labor contract between the employee and his employer. And now the new clause now is up to 6 months per year. So this new clause, before there will be a 3 months or 1 month clause where the employee agreed that he will be traveling at least 1 month a year. And now what we're adopting now in the labor contract is up to 6 months a year. So that's a lot of adjustment, a lot of negotiation. And that's on the employer side, employee side. But on the hosting country side, there will be a lot of change to do too. There will be to be a lot more accommodating. I'm taking, by example, to Saudi Arabia, a lot more accommodating to different cultures than they are now.
Yeah, yeah. And just, I guess, onto, we're close to time, but just maybe a couple more questions. One is, we talk about the worker moving, but we often don't think about the families. And so when we're talking about relocating in challenging times, do the people seeking advice from you have concerns about moving their families with them? What advice do you give them?
Although this is a very excellent point, and that's something that we start to see where we have people who've been relocated because of COVID to a different country who are now seeking to bring the family together. We've seen more and more of that because, again, everybody was on the 2 months, 3 months timeline thinking, and now things are getting longer and longer, and that's totally changed the whole perspective. We did have a demand, and again, I think it was yesterday or Friday, where now we start to see it's not only the executive that's going to move, but the spouse and the kids are moving too, which is a totally new challenge immigration-wise, and or again travel document-wise or visa-wise. So, but again, it comes with the longer traveling time. But what is a bit more dramatic, what we've been seeing since I would say about 1 trimester, is that people that were relocated was pretty much are on the in country B doing what they're supposed to do, but now there's no going back home for another 2 or 3 months. So suddenly they say, "Hey, Christmas is coming. I want," and there's no way that they can go to Christmas, spend a week for Christmas, and come back. Again, we're talking about 1 month's minimum, and the project is going full speed. So so then the only solution often is to bring the family into the host country, celebrate, let's say, Christmas there, and then send back the family who will have to go through quarantine, etc., etc. So it's a good challenge, as we've seen a lot of hard decisions being taken by those families too.
Well, Jean-Francois, that is an excellent point to end on, and we've run out of time. It's a conversation that we've had for quite some time. A pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for your contribution, and hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Aldo, thank you. Thank you for your time again. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.